Good morning and welcome to the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment's Division of Family and Medical Leave Insurance monthly employee webinar series. We're so happy to have you with us today. Today's webinar will feature an overview of how family interacts with other leave types. Our monthly webinar series showcases information and resources to help Colorado employers prepare for the new paid family leave program passed by Colorado voters in 2020. A reminder, this is our quarterly live event where you can share your questions on the program and give us feedback on the presentation series. We'll include this Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Please chat in your questions in the Q&A or the chat. We very likely won't get to all of the questions today, but rest assured we will be providing answers to those questions in future communications that will be sent out to participants and all posted on our website at family.colorado.gov. We recognize that Colorado's paid family leave program is a brand new requirement for you, and you have a lot of questions and concerns moving forward. We look forward to ongoing and open communication with Colorado employers on these and future topics. In April and May, our webinars will be pre-recorded and posted on the Family website at family.colorado.gov, sent out to past webinar attendees, and shared out through our social media channels. In April, we'll highlight how local governments can prepare for family, and that webinar will be shared on April 29th. In May, we'll be discussing preparing your small business for family, and that will be shared on May 27th. And in June, we will hold our quarterly live webinar with a focus on calculating premiums and also answer your live questions. Here's Tracy to tell you a little bit more about the new paid family leave program.
Thanks, Cher. Before we begin, here is a quick summary on Colorado's new paid family and medical leave program. Starting in 2024, millions of Coloradans will be eligible for this new benefit. All Coloradans will be eligible to take flexible, paid time off to care for an injury, assist a loved one with a medical issue, and to bond with a new child, including those who choose to become parents through adoption or foster care. Additionally, mothers who need special care related to birth may take additional time off for recovery. This paid time off also applies to intermittent leave. Paid family and medical leave is different from the Family and Medical Leave Act, known as FMLA, due to its paid nature. States who have already implemented paid family and medical leave allow those who utilize this benefit to get paid a certain amount for time taken away from work. Paid family and medical leave is funded through fees paid by employers and employees into a general fund similar to an insurance. Employers who offer paid family and medical leave through their own benefits package may be exempt from this program once they have submitted documentation to the division and can show that their program is equal or better than what the state provides. Handing over to Scott from our DLSS division.
Thanks, Tracy. As Tracy mentioned, the family program is going to be administered by the Family Division. A little background on the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics, a separate division of CDLE that covers other labor laws, some of them related. DLSS issues guidance and gives presentations and interpretations on and enforces Colorado labor laws that include wages, health-related leave, which includes the paid sick leave that predates the implementation of family, as well as whistleblower rights, employee privacy rights, union management relations, job posting transparency, and more. DLSS investigates complaints, both individual complaints and systemic investigations into workplace or sector-wide violations. And the next slide, we'll talk a bit about the overlap between, or the interaction between family and other forms of paid leave. First, I'll mention HFWA, Colorado's Healthy Families and Workplaces Act, which is part of the labor law that DLSS interprets, gives guidance on, and enforces. That's the requirement that's been in effect since July 2020, with additional provisions taking effect over the next 2 years and is now in full effect, where Colorado employees are entitled to 1 hour of paid leave per 30 hours worked, up to a maximum of 48 hours per year for a variety of health and safety needs. Additionally, as long as Colorado remains in any degree of a public health emergency, which as of this presentation it is, there's also 80 hours for COVID-related needs from being tested, being symptomatic, an actual positive test, or a vaccination, or family members with those needs. Those are sick days that employees can just take and remain on payroll, much like a traditional paid vacation, paid sick days, or paid time off program that an employer may have on its own. It is not something that has to be claimed by putting contributions into a system or levying a claim. The employee just requests a qualifying period of time off, again, up to a maximum of 48 or 80 hours, and can take it. Once HIFWA leave is taken, an employee can choose to take HIFWA leave for their first 48 or 80 hours, as the case may be, and then put in for family leave if they so choose to come after that. With that, I'll turn Mike back over to Tracy for other forms of leave that overlap with or interact with family.
Thanks, Scott. So FMLA, the Family and Medical Leave Act. This act entitles eligible employees of covered employers to take unpaid job-protected leave for specified family and medical reasons with continuation of their group health insurance coverage under the same terms and conditions as if the employee had not taken leave. We can also look at ADA, specifically Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibits discrimination in employment and requires employers to provide reasonable accommodations for qualified applicants and employees with disabilities. Examples of reasonable accommodations would include making existing facilities accessible, job restructuring, part-time or modified work schedules, acquiring or modifying equipment, changing tests and training materials or policies, providing qualified readers or interpreters, and possible reassignment to a vacant position. Colorado also has workers' compensation insurance. This provides medical and lost wage benefits to workers who are injured on the job. All businesses with employees operating in Colorado are required to have workers' compensation insurance, regardless of the number of employees, whether the employees only work part-time or if they are members of the same family. Workers' compensation insurance is purchased by an employer from an insurance agent, much like you'd purchase liability or auto insurance. The cost of workers' compensation insurance cannot be passed on to employees. Finally, we have paid family and medical leave, which in Colorado we're calling FAMLI, and that's for eligible employees who can receive up to 12 weeks of leave, plus an additional 4 weeks for people who experience pregnancy or childbirth complications. During their leave, they will receive between 37 and 90% of their wages, and benefits are capped at $1,100 per week. Colorado's FAMLI program was designed so that FAMLI would run concurrently with federal FMLA. In other words, in most situations, employees who take paid family leave will also be using their unpaid FMLA leave at the same time. CDLE cannot provide guidance concerning FMLA, but we have asked the U.S. Department of Labor for additional guidance, which we will share with Colorado businesses once that's available. Passing over to Lydia to talk about our local governments.
Thank you, Tracy. Finally, while we will cover this topic in depth during our future webinar, I just wanted to take a moment to speak to our partners in local government, which will be handling family a bit differently from our business community. Each local government will need to vote on family, but local governments have plenty of time. You do not need to vote right now. The deadline for each local government to vote and notify the family division of their vote is January 1 of 2023. We have put together a flyer with relevant information for local governments, and you can find that under the employer section on our website at family.colorado.gov. Back to you, Tracy.
Thanks, Lydia. We will take live questions in just a few minutes, but before we do, we wanted to cover a few of the most frequently asked questions that we've received. So the first one, do I pay my employee when they are out on leave? The answer to that one is no. So similar to unemployment benefits, FAMLI is an insurance program. If family leave is approved for one of your employees, their wage replacement while they're on family leave is paid by the state, not by you. This provides your business with the flexibility to use those dollars to meet the needs that you may have in any way that makes sense for your business. That could be paying for a temporary employee, offering overtime to other employees, or whatever you may need to help and support your business. How will I know when an employee is taking leave and when they will be back? So again, just like with unemployment, your business will be notified when an employee submits a claim for family benefits. If and when that claim is approved, you'll also be notified, and then we'll provide you with an estimate of when that employee is expected to return back to work. Do I have to hold a job for them? You do. If the employee's been working with you for 180 days or longer, then FAMLI does provide individuals with job protection similar to FMLA. And our final pre-prepared question slide, how does FAMLI impact companies with employees across multiple states? So companies will include all of their employees within their organization to determine if they have greater than 9 individuals. Employers will make their premium payment only for their Colorado-based employees. How will FAMLI interact with other disability insurance programs offered by employers such as short and long-term disability? While we're still developing the rules regarding coordination of benefits, we do anticipate those private plans will not be regulated by the FAMLI division and may be used to complement the 12 weeks FAMLI provides as a total compensation package. We do know short-term disability carriers are developing plans that could serve as an equivalent private plan. Handing back to you, Cher.
Thanks, Tracy. On this slide, we've provided an outline of activities that will help you prepare to implement FAMLI in your business. We note that Q2 is a good time to begin sharing information with your employees, which includes payroll deductions that they'll begin seeing in January 2023 if you participate in the state's plan. We'll continue our rulemaking process in Q2, including rules around benefits, so please be sure to check our events calendar at our homepage at famli.colorado.gov to stay up to date on division activities. We're working with our vendor partner to build our new premium system, and later in Q3, we'll be communicating with you on how you can register your business with the new system. And in Q4, we'll work with you on setting up payroll deductions, and for those private plan employers, ensuring your plans are noted in our system. Again, FAMLI benefits will be available to Colorado workers beginning January 1, 2024. All of our employer-related content can be found on our website at famli.colorado.gov, clicking on the Employers button. From this page, you'll find links to our webinars, FAQs, newsletters, and our newest edition, an Employer Toolkit. On the webinar page, you can access past webinars related to FAMLI, as well as other topics from CDLE, including unemployment premiums, paid sick leave, and workers' compensation. Our FAQ page features answers to more than 100 questions submitted by Colorado employers on everything from local government rules to premium calculations. We update this page often, so be sure to check back for the latest from the division based on what we're hearing from you. Lastly, our employer toolkit page includes a sample pay stub, workplace poster, fact sheet for HR staff. Please note, other workplace postings are required under the new law, and those will be accessible later this spring in the toolkit. We welcome your suggestions on other useful content you'd like to see as part of the toolkit, so please feel free to share that with us. We'll share out a variety of methods to communicate with us in the next slide. Our goal is to build a family program that's fair and meets the needs of employers and workers in Colorado. You can help us accomplish this by participating in our webinar series, sharing your ideas and concerns, or inviting us to speak to your organization or other business groups you may be a part of. We do believe your input is essential in ensuring this is a useful and effective program for all of Colorado. Before we open it up to your live questions, again, just a reminder on our upcoming webinar topics. April 29th, local governments, May 27th, preparing your small business for family, both of which will be pre-recorded, available online through social media and to past webinar participants. And then again, June 30th, we'll have a live webinar calculating premiums and answer all of your questions related to the new paid family leave program. And now let's go ahead and open up the questions and bring our panel of experts on to answer all of the questions you have for us today. Let's start with the first question here. I think we talked about, I'm going to navigate between the chat and the Q&A. Let's go to this one. Based on everything I've seen, the PFML also outlines job protection is included once the employee reaches 180 days work. Is that accurate? I do believe we addressed this previously in the presentation. Does a panelist have anything else to add?
No, but that is accurate.
Great. Okay. If we are not required to support FMLA, do we have to support family?
Go ahead, Lydia.
Thank you. So the answer to that is yes. And so family includes a much larger pool than the current federal FMLA does. It is really meant for all Coloradans.
Thank you, Lydia. Next question we have, I understand that organizations can opt out and employers avoid paying their portion of family as long as they can provide a similar benefit for employees. Does that also automatically opt employees out of paying their portion of family?
I can take that one. So the private plan has to be an equivalent plan. And so the private plans, once they meet equivalency and are submitted to the family division will then call that obligation fulfilled by the private plan. And then your employees do not pay into family at that point. You are using the private plan to meet the family obligation.
Thanks, Lydia. Question is, if we already provide short-term disability and long-term disability that provides 60 and 80, whoops, you guys are typing furiously, I love it, 60 and 50% of wages to a maximum benefit, would that work instead of family?
You know, it would not unless it also covers all the other benefits that family offers, such as safe leave, military exigency leave, and covers all the relationships and leave reasons. So no, that would not work instead of family.
Thank you, Tracy. This one is open to any of our panelists, and we may actually put a pin in this one as something we're continuing to research and review from a policy perspective. But the question is, can the employer require sick hours to be taken prior to family? Any of my panelists want to weigh in on that one, or should we put a pin in this one?
I think I can weigh in and say that the statute pretty clearly states that they can't be required to use their sick hours or other PTO before using their family benefit.
Evan, I think we lost audio a little bit with the answer. Maybe it was just on mine. Can you repeat the answer?
Certainly. The statute makes clear that employees cannot be required to use their paid sick leave or other PTO before using the family wage replacement benefit.
Great. Okay, we're going to go to a question on local governments. If a local government opts out, but one of its employees self-elects, does the weekly benefit the employee can receive decrease? Because this means the employer is not contributing a premium.
I can take that question. So no, the benefit, it does not decrease by the employer not paying the premium benefit. They would still get the full benefit, and the benefit is based off of their total wages, not the amount of premium paid for that employee.
Thanks, Lydia. How about this one? Some home rule charters specifically prohibit city council from engaging in personnel issues. How will that be addressed if they have to vote to participate or not? I don't know, do we have an answer to this one?
So I think that this is a great thing to pin for our upcoming webinar on local governments at the end of April. But this is also a larger context in terms of you as an employer needing to fulfill the family obligation. So we will certainly look into this and get back to you with a more detailed answer.
Thanks, Lydia. Another participant still is not clear on the employees in other states. So the person wants to know exactly what is the policy around a company that has employees, not just in Colorado, but other states.
Yep. So we are following the Department of Labor guidance in terms of localization of employees. And so if your employee's work is based out of Colorado or fits under that guidance that it's been long relied on from DOL and unemployment insurance as well, then you would be paying a family premium for them, and your Colorado-based employee would have access to family. So your out-of-state employees, if you are based in Colorado, do not have this benefit. However, if the total size of the employer as to whether or not they're paying the employer share and the employee share is based off the total size of the company. So if you had 2 employees in Colorado, but 30 employees located in another state, you would pay the employer share of the premium.
Thank you, Lydia. Can the employer require the person to notify the employer of their time off and comply with company policies about notice and medical documentation requirements?
They certainly can request notification if it's a foreseeable absence, but there's certainly going to be times when, these things cannot be pre-planned. But you're certainly able to put that into your internal employee policies.
One quick follow-up note, Tracy, I'll add as to HIPAA, the Colorado paid sick law covering the first 6 or 10 days, depending on whether COVID related or not, is that there are restrictions on requiring documentation for very short leaves, ones of under 4 days. Documentation ordinarily can't be required, as well as for COVID-related leave, documentation can't be required. For more on this, you can see the HIPAA fact sheets on the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics website, which is coloradolaborlaw.gov, and click on infos, and you'll see the fact sheets related to HIPAA.
Thank you, Scott. This is answered in our slide deck, but let's go ahead and get to this one too. What is the eligibility requirement for family? And I'm assuming the person wants to know what's covered under family, correct? Why don't we interpret it as such unless anybody else has anything they want to add? The question is, what is the eligibility requirement for family?
Sure. So the eligibility requirement for family is having made $2,500 localized within Colorado across a 4-quarter look back period, which is very similar to how UI operates. And so if someone has worked for multiple employers, or they have worked for your company for a short amount of time, we look back and to make sure that they've earned that amount of money and have become a covered individual under the statute. So once someone is a covered individual and then they have a need for leave that is covered by family, then they are covered or eligible for benefits. And of course, the reasons that someone might need leave under family in which they find themselves eligible are a serious health condition for themselves or for a family member, the need for leave related to family leave, whether you are adding a new family member by birth, adoption, or foster care placement, If you are experiencing a military exigency and a member of your family is being deployed or needs your assistance, or if someone is experiencing the impact of intimate partner violence and needs leave for safety reasons. So there's great information about that on our website and other webinars that will walk you through each of those individual needs for leave, as well as the coverage and eligibility.
Thanks, Lydia. Question is, do employers need to continue employee benefits like medical, dental, etc., while an employee is on family leave?
Yes.
Easy answer. Thank you. Let's see here. Good. This is a good question and something we'd like to get your feedback around as you begin looking at implementing this program. The question is, what is your estimate of the number of staff hours required to administer this program? We do hope to continue to expand on our toolkits and our online resources. We also are in the process of creating an employer guidebook that will help you with the administration of the program. So again, this voter approved program that mandates our department to implement and administer, as you all know, is brand new. Colorado is one of 9 states. We are learning lessons from those other states and their experience, and that's helping us to provide you all with guidance around implementation requirements. So we certainly would welcome your feedback on things that we can support you with to make that implementation as easy as possible. I don't know if my panelists, based on your conversations with any other states, do you have anything else to add to this question?
The only thing I would add is that we're aiming to make this as easy as we can for companies and HR professionals. The current goal is that a wage report would be uploaded once, and it would cover both unemployment insurance and families, so you won't need to go to a separate location and upload it a second time. We're going to do everything we can to try and incorporate timing and documentation and everything else to keep it as streamlined as what you're already doing for UI as we logically can.
Thank you, Tracy. Let's see here. How about this one? And we may have already addressed this. Can an employer plan be employer sponsored and not by purchasing short-term disability insurance from a carrier? We plan to pay 100% for paid leave, but this will be an employer paid plan and not insurance.
Yes, so the statute does address people that want to self-insure. We do require a surety bond to make sure that that is covered for employees, and we will expect to have more information for those published when we do the rules around private plans, and we expect those to be out sometime this spring.
Thanks, Lydia. How about this one? When we receive reporting requirements for both single filers who will file directly and third-party administrators who will file as bulk filers, both quarterly reports and W-2 box 14 reporting requirements, if applicable. Boy, this is, I hope, if my panelists don't know the answer, we commit to researching the response for you. Anybody have any answers to this? I can read it again if that helps.
You know, Cher, I see this question and it's a great one. Thank you so much for asking it. And so the easy answer is yes. And so we are working on a tech system that's going to be able to deal with both individuals that are uploading wages, and if you're doing this yourself, or if you work through a TPA, or you have QuickBooks or Intuit or another function. And so we are really working to make sure that our system is able to talk to those other systems so that this is seamless as possible for you. We do anticipate our system will also be able to issue those 1099s, which is that box 14 that you're talking about on the W-2s, which talk about those miscellaneous payments for benefits. And so we are working on it. We are cognizant of this, and we are building the tech system to be able to accommodate those needs. But thank you for the question.
Thanks, Lydia. Let's go to this one. How often can the family premiums be raised?
So the statute says that we are at this rate until 2025. The statute also gives us a cap to that rate of 1.2% of wages. And so we have a cap in statute. We would not be able to even consider raising the rate until after 2025. And I will just put a pin that other states have actually been able to not raise their rates, but to decrease that. So while that is fluid, we are definitely between that 0.9 and that 1.25.
Thank you, Lydia. Just taking a look at the time, we're about halfway through our webinar. So again, we'll continue to try and get through as many of your questions as we're able to, but please note if we don't get to a real-time response, that those will be shared out following the webinar, which is being recorded. And all of this information will be on our website as well. Let's go to this one. Can employees opt out?
No, they cannot.
We have in a chat, and maybe one of the panelists, somebody is asking for the statutory citation for FAMLI. And I did want to just circle back to the rulemaking process. We are in the middle of, as you know, creating the rules and regs around this new program. And so we'd love to receive your input and feedback as we are producing those rules and pulling them together. So again, on our website, you can find out where we are with which set of rules, and please encourage your participation and feedback. Okay, let's go back to, here's an interesting one. Any update on the timeline for the Supreme Court case?
We actually have oral hearings on I believe it's May 3rd. It's the first week in May.
Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Family.colorado.gov, by the way, is our website. I'll add it to the chat here as well for you. Okay, how about, is FAMLI available for short-term illness? For example, 1 week or less, or is it only for longer durations? And what are those timeframes?
It is for a shorter term as well. So there's no wait period. There's no minimum number of days requirement, and it may be used intermittently or for smaller periods of time.
We had a quick follow-up to the opt-out. Let me just go ahead and read this one. Two follow-ups. So let's stop here and provide some clarification. Just to make sure I'm clear, if government can opt out, can government employees opt out?
No, so the opt-out for local government is limited to that local government body. And so if that local government opts out, then each of those employees working for that local government have the ability to opt in to the program, but they are out when their local government opts out on their behalf.
Thank you, Lydia. I want to go ahead, lots of questions around local governments and lots of requests for clarification. Again, we changed the dates of the local government and preparing your small business for FAMLI. We changed the date to April 29th. We'll be updating our website today accordingly. This was a recent change based on the number of questions we're receiving in around local government. So we apologize if the website's not yet been updated, but please note we have changed that webinar date to April 29th. Okay, how about this one? What does FAMLI pay to the employee? Is it 60% of gross wages?
So it varies. You can almost think of it like a sliding scale. So those employees that are higher income earners may have a lower percentage rate of family benefits paid to them. And those individuals who are lower income earners may receive up to 90% of their usual average weekly wage. There is a cap. It's the payment to individuals is capped at $1,100 per week.
Thanks, Tracy. We also do have a benefit calculator on our website at family.colorado.gov. Okay, couple of questions here. I'll answer them collectively. One's about, will we be creating brochures? And another one's about what will CDLE be providing you with to update your employee handbooks? Yes, the answer is yes. We only have a few items that we've created so far. As I mentioned, we have a sample pay stub and HR administrator's fact sheet and a break room poster, but we will certainly be adding to those items in the next couple of months. Actually, we certainly want to arm you with that information sooner rather than later. So thank you for those questions. Oh, let's see. Okay, how about you mentioned we can't require employees to use PTO first. If our FMLA policy requires employees to use their available PTO, are you saying we need to change our policy?
Yes. Family is different from FMLA, so yes. You'll need to look at your employee policies.
I think we answered this. We'll go ahead and just to reiterate, what are the reimbursement benefit levels for employees taking family? When will these be decided, and do they phase out at a higher income level? What are those income levels?
So I think that's the question we just addressed. And again, referring back to that calculator would give you the best oversight.
Is there a cap on what employer and employee have to pay into the fund?
Yes, there is. The cap is based off of the wages, the gross wages that the employee is making, and that is capped at the Social Security number cap. And so the Social Security number cap for Social Security benefits is set every October, and we will follow that cap accordingly.
Lots of local government questions. We have a question, are elected officials covered under family? Do we know?
I can see Lydia thinking on that one.
I think it would depend on the local official. There is language in the ballot around that. So let's get back to you on that one.
This question has come in a couple of times. Is it gross wages or taxable wages up to the Social Security limit? Very important distinction.
It is gross wages. So we're taking your gross amount and calculating the premium and the benefit off of that amount. And then once we hit to the Social Security cap, we stop looking that far at it. That's the cap that we go to.
I think this has been addressed in the presentation and through another question, but just to make sure I'm on track here, are all employers covered under family regardless of number of employees?
Yes.
We answered this one. Must the employer continue other employee benefits while the employee is on leave? I believe we answered yes to that.
Correct, that's yes.
We've answered this as well, but go ahead, read it again. To be exempted, the employer's private plan must meet or exceed all requirements under family. Note that an STD policy would not satisfy that requirement as it would not cover family situations. Guess not necessarily a question, but something I think they're looking for clarification on.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Chair?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
To be exempted, the employer's private plan must meet or exceed all requirements under family. Note that a short-term disability policy would not satisfy that requirement as it would not cover family care situations. That is correct.
Correct.
Trevor. Okay, here's a good one. And we did touch on where we are in our mandate to implement this program. We are in the middle of building our technology system to manage premiums associated with family. And as such, we know that we will need to help employers get into the system, create their accounts, manage payroll deductions. So the question here is, when do you anticipate that we will have the reporting requirements for this program, including quarterly reporting requirements for single employers who will file directly and third-party administrators who will file in bulk? I think we did answer this before, and I believe as Tracy or Lydia mentioned, we are trying to borrow from our UI program as much as we can and mimic the reporting requirements with unemployment insurance. Ideally, this would be a system where you'd have a single sign-on as an employer. We are really trying to reduce redundancy with those divisions over which we have regulatory responsibilities. So we are certainly taking all of this into consideration as we are building the required system. Here's a good one. When will the process for submitting an application to use a private plan be available?
So the Division of Insurance, right? So the folks that regulate all of the insurance carriers in Colorado just released a document last week. And so they anticipate carriers being able to file their plans with them in November of this year. So in November, the carriers will be, submitting plans to DOI. DOI will then post on their website which plans have met that criteria. And then the employer will, if you want to purchase that plan, then the employer submits information to us saying, I have this plan that has met this criteria. And then we're the ones that say, yes, this is you've got the equivalent plan. You don't need to pay into the family premium. So it is coming. And once the carriers have the plans up and have submitted those starting in November of this year, then we anticipate we will start seeing applications for premium relief.
Let's see, how about this one? Can you define Colorado based? If they live in another state, but the business is only in Colorado?
So we're following the Division of Labor on their localization standards. And so I believe that's on our website. We can get that information to you. It depends on where the work is localized out of, right? So I think that'll probably be your best guidance.
Can you describe how an individual who has a claim will receive the benefit? Is it like unemployment?
So say that question again for me, Cher.
Let's see here. Can you describe how an individual who has a claim will receive this benefit? Is it like unemployment?
Okay, so they'll receive payment for this benefit directly from the state. So that it's possible that may be in the form of a check or maybe an ACH, potentially some kind of debit card. All that is still in the design process right now.
Do employers have to start paying the tax if they submit a private plan on January 1st, 2023?
No, if your private plan is equivalent and has been through that application process, then you don't pay premiums into family.
Thank you. I think we answered this. Can you clarify on contributions that when an employer opts into a private plan that the employer can still collect employee contributions for both self-insured and fully insured to support the program once it goes live?
Yes, that's a great question. So the employer can expect a contribution from the employee, but that contribution cannot be any more than what that employee would have contributed under the state plan. So that is a similar cap. You can't charge more for the private plan.
Thanks, Lydia. Who is included in the definition of family member?
So a family member is pretty broad, but I will tell you that we're using a similar definition to what the federal government uses and has used for at least the last 10 years in terms of folks that are like a family relation. So it was crafted with that in mind. That's been in place for a while now, and people will apply for this program and go from there.
Thank you. If family only covers up to a certain portion of the pay, can we make employees use their PTO to supplement while on leave?
You cannot require them to use their PTO, but you are certainly welcome to come to that agreement with your employee, and you are allowed to top off or make whole that employee while they are on leave, but you can't require it. It can be an agreement though between both of you.
If the local government opts out, does the employee pay 0.45 or 0.9%?
0.45.
0.4.
Do local governments have to include their elected board or commissioners in their employment numbers?
Let me look into that and get back to you on April 29th. That goes back to that elected officials question. I think it depends.
Let's see. Can the opt-out provision be applied to specific employees that are already covered under another plan, or does it need to apply to our entire organization?
So the opt-out, because local governments are really the only ones allowed to opt out, and so the opt-out is the entire the entire employee pool under that local government, and then those folks can opt back in. So other folks can't individually opt out of the program.
Let's see, lots of local government questions. This is why we moved up the next webinar topic, and we understand there's some clarity we certainly can work on providing. In addition to the vote to opt out, does a local government have to provide a benefit of equal value?
No, they do not.
Right. If a local government opts out, but an employee voluntarily opts in, is the local government required to honor to job protection and other provisions if the employee is not eligible for FMLA?
No, they do not.
Okay. I'm also dropping in the chat here our FAQ page that I mentioned at the top of the webinar. You'll see a link on the right-hand side. That is a link to all of the questions that we received during our first live webinar in December. Just going to circle back to this one. I know you're working toward mimicking UI for reporting. A timeline of those guidelines, when would that be made available?
So for the guidelines and the reporting, we have that somewhat available in terms of the premium rules that we were able to publish and be adopted, and those were adopted January 1 of this year. So under those, we follow the same timelines as UI. So meaning that you're going to start accruing a premium liability January 1, 2023. The payment is then due April 1st of 2023. And then you have a grace period until for 30 days until the 30th of April to actually pay the premiums. And so we're following the same timelines that UI. So hopefully the goal is that you only have to sit down and log in once and do this at the same time.
Thanks, Lydia. Can employers take deductions from family benefits to pay for the employee's portion of medical, dental, et cetera, premium payments while the employee is on family?
So the state pays the benefit to the employee that is out on leave. So you as the employer are kind of out of that decision. We're paying them directly. In terms of being able to withhold part of their wages, that would be their normal contribution to their medical and dental. Yes, you can do that. So you have to keep that benefit going, but whatever their normal contribution is as the employee, their monthly contribution to sick time or healthcare and dental, you're still responsible for that. and they're responsible for their half, or whatever split they have.
Thank you. I believe we, this is included in our response about future guidance, but the question was around private plans and when the application to submit private plans would be available. I believe the answer is Q3, or is that sooner than that?
So the Division of Insurance is allowing carriers to list the private plans in November and to submit those for their evaluation. So I'm assuming it's going to be after the DOI has a chance to review the plans that are available. So ours will follow very shortly, and we expect we will have private plan rules adopted well before then, so that we'll have more for you soon. But it will be likely December before things really get rolling on those.
We've answered this, but I think it bears repeating because this seems to be the question of the day. Are local governments required to hold a vote to opt out by July 1, 2022?
No, they are not. Thank you so much for that question. We've been getting it a lot this week. Local governments do not have to hold the vote this summer. You can vote at any time this year. The first time that we really need to hear from local governments is when registration is open. So registration, we anticipate to have open starting in November for a soft launch, and we are inviting local governments at that time to register with the program. We'll have people available to help you register. When you register for the program, we'll also ask you to upload the documentation of your vote at that time. And that's happening this fall. So we don't need you to vote early. And we'll get into the reasons behind that in April 29th, but you are good for now. And when registration opens, we will absolutely notify you.
Thank you, Lydia. This is a good question. Is the pay stub example a mandatory requirement or just a suggestion? In other words, must employers display the premiums on the pay stub? I will answer from a communications perspective. We were hoping to just provide something as an example for you, but I don't believe, Lydia, this has been discussed in any rulemaking as a requirement. So at this point, we thought it might just be something you may want to mimic for your organization. Is that correct?
Chair, I can pipe in and say that from the wage and hour perspective, the Colorado Wage Act requires all deductions be detailed on a pay stub. And so to the extent that the premiums are executed via a wage deduction, then yes, they would have to be.
Okay, thank you for that, Evan. And a follow-up for my benefit, would that be part of our benefits rulemaking process?
I think that's probably a coordination of benefits piece. And so I don't anticipate that we would necessarily adopt specific family rules for that because they're covered by wage and hour. So, but we will certainly provide clarification on that. That's a great question.
Thank you. Okay, just a few more minutes here. So we will get to a couple more questions and then we will wrap up. Again, lots of questions. We'll commit to getting you answers if we have them. We've flagged some things we need to conduct further research on. And so again, please, family.colorado.gov is the best resource for you. Are there any payroll deductions that would reduce the wages subject to these premiums? Unemployment does have some.
You know, we need to take a look at that with our coordination of benefits section to really give you the most complete answer. So let's get back to you on that one.
Here's one. If an employer has a private plan and they don't withhold the family tax from an employee, what happens when they change employers? Will the employee have to meet the 180-day employment requirement with the new employer?
So the 180-day requirement is only for job protection. So job protection is kind of a separate benefit under this program. So the benefit though for family is portable, and so we do that look back across the wages. And so they would have access to family if they were at a new employer and they had met the definition. but the job protection comes in at a later date.
Thank you. Let's get to just a couple more here. We have a retirement plan where the employees are required to contribute 4% of their wages. If we have no wages in our system for a payroll because the employee is being paid through the state, are we required to collect their contribution to this retirement plan from them? Do I need to read that again or?
Can you read that again or help me find the question in the chat?
It's one of the most recent Q&As typed in. Sorry, I'm bouncing around to make sure we cover as broad of a topic that we can. The question is, we have a retirement plan where the employees are required to contribute 4% of their wages. If we have no wages in our system for a payroll because the employee is being paid through the state, are we required to collect their contribution to this retirement plan?
You know, my inclination is to say this is going to be similar to their payroll deductions for their healthcare and their dental that they would have while they were out on leave. But I think this is something we would address in coordination of benefits. And so those are the whole set of rules that we take a look at how family interacts with all of the other pieces that employers are required to do. And that rulemaking is happening this summer and into the fall. So more to follow on that, but so.
Thanks, Lydia. I think I will go ahead and wrap us up. We are almost to time. I want to just go ahead again. Thank you for your participation. We apologize we weren't able to get everybody's questions. Again, important to note, we've changed our schedule. Local governments will now be April 29th. Again, I think your question submitted today demonstrates why we needed to reprioritize our content areas that we're presenting. This recording will be sent to you via email, available also on our website, along with answers to all of your questions you submitted that we weren't able to get to today. Thank you all so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate and value your input and feedback. We understand this is a new process. It's a new process for us. And so we are really thankful for your interest and involvement. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day.